Welcome to this week in the world of wrestling.
Welcome to TWitWoW, the best wrestling podcast made for wrestling fans, by wrestling fans, on the web today. I'm John, that's my cohort and commentary Ashton, and this is our NXT review. You call this the go home episode of NXT before TakeOver 2 next week. And this was a phenomenal show. You know, me and Ashton have discussed in the past how we'll have friends of ours discuss, oh, we wish NXT was longer, we wish it was 2 hours. Hell, I even had my friend James say, man, I wish it had Raw's 3-hour time slot. But it once again proves why it's superior with only an hour, because it devoted that entire hour to promoting TakeOver 2 and building pretty much every match on this card, save for, I believe, Bold MC versus Mojo Rawley was the only one that didn't get any hype. No pun.
And who cares about that anyway?
Who cares about that anyway is precisely right. This show, with the main matches that it wanted to promote, I think did so brilliantly. I was very impressed. Ashton, what did you think of it, man?
I absolutely loved this show. To me, this NXT was Triple H taking his baby and shoving it in Vince's face and showing him how much more, how much easier it is to book a show and how much better his product is than Vince's, because the last two Raws have been absolute crap overall. And this episode of NXT, to me, if I had to look at every go-home show, meaning the show before a pay-per-view, regardless of brand, whether it was NXT, WWE, TNA, this is probably the best overall go-home show of the entire year so far.
Absolutely. You know what's funny, Ashton, as we're talking about this? You know, lately on a lot of episodes of TwitWoW, I somehow always manage to bring it back to one central gripe I've been having for quite some time. Man, I miss the days when SmackDown had its own identity. I miss the days when it seemed like there was an internal competitiveness within the WWE brand. And I feel like NXT keeps that idea, keeps that fire alive, because I feel like whatever show they put on, whether it's their regular product or their special events, it's like all of the hungry developmental talent is looking over to the main roster talent, giving a little wink and a nudge and saying, top that.
Yeah.
And I don't think they could top this. This was absolutely just fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, let me put it this way. On this show, our main event was solid. The only real complaint that I have about this entire show is that I feel like our main event got cut a little bit short because of how many, like, just how much they shoved into this 1 hour worth of programming. Like, I feel like if they would have had like an hour and 5 to 10 minutes rather than just an hour, the show would have been perfect. But on top of having a really solid main event, which, like I said, my only gripe is that it just got cut a little bit shorter than I wish it would have been. We had 5 matches, all 5 of which some people could say were squash matches because they were all less than 5 minutes long. But not a single person that lost any of the 5 matches other than the main event looked bad. None of them lost any credibility.
I completely agree with you. If anything, I believe some performers in those matches actually gained credibility.
Right. The first one I would agree with, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That was the one I was thinking of too when I made the statement. And that just really goes to show, again, why NXT is a superior product. They can put these unknown guys on a card, or guys that may not be getting built up at the moment, but still give them that platform, however brief, to go out and do something and have a hand in the greater end, and also making themselves look good. And that's just why I think it's just such a spectacular product, because it's just so different in that regard with how it treats talent. And yeah, this show, if I wasn't excited for what NXT TakeOver 2 had built for us before, I am just really stoked to get to this show next week.
Absolutely.
All right, with that said, let's get into our first segment, quite lackadaisically if you ask me. Heat of the night. What do you guys think? I'm not even going to have any puns this week. No heats of the night. Let's roll right along. Ashton, do you have any heats of the night?
Yeah, like I said, the only real nitpick that I had was that I wish that the main event would have gotten more time, but even that is barely even a nitpick. That's just like because this show was so good, I have to find something negative about it, and that's it.
Yeah, I would agree. I would have liked at least 5 more minutes for that time match, especially because, the tournament was so drawn out in these two teams. I love both of them. But, yeah, I agree with you. That's a nitpick at best. So with that said, let us get right into our NXT review. And, brother, how do we open this one up?
Alexa Bliss versus Charlotte actually opened this show up. This was the first of 5 sort of quasi-squash matches where, even though it was a short match and the obvious winner dominated, the other person still looked good. They still had a few kind of hope spot moments. Bliss had a few moves. She hit a Hurricane Rana. She hit a drop kick. At one point, Charlotte went for a power bomb, and Alexa Bliss reversed it into kind of like a sort of... it was kind of botchy, but it was a sunset flip. But yeah, at the end of the day, Charlotte wins with Bow Down to the Queen, which I do want to point out, even though we know it as Bow Down to the Queen, commentary didn't refer to it as that. They just said it was the cutter.
Yeah, which is interesting to me, and I gotta say, I've really grown to like Charlotte's finisher, not only for its aesthetic value, but I think it's just so easy if you're Charlotte to execute, because anytime you get an opponent down and they try and regain that vertical base, they make themselves vulnerable to that maneuver. And I just think it's really quite brilliant.
It requires the same setup as Seth Rollins' Blackout.
Right, exactly. So, I really approve of it. And yeah, Alexa Bliss, see, she's such an interesting case because I do think she's slowly putting the pieces together. I was glad to see her actually do a Hurricane Rana and not that variation she does where she also transitions into the cradle. Her offense is getting less repetitive, which for those of you that remember when we talked about Alexa Bliss early on, that was one of my biggest complaints. But I don't know, man. She's still got to work out a few kinks, but she's definitely progressed in the last time I saw her, so good on her.
It's like I want to like her, but I just feel like everything about her is fake.
Yeah, and that's another thing we discussed too. I even said, with her look, if they wanted to go with this gimmick, it just feels more naturally heel to me. Like the whole cheerleader looking get up and the glitter and look how wonderful I look and how fabulous I don't know. It's just I think it'll come together for her though. I don't think she's a lost cause, not in the slightest. I think she may actually be one that either the end of this year or early next, you and I will be talking about in a more positive context. At least I hope, because there's something there, definitely. We just got to find it.
I don't think either one of us even really believes in lost causes anymore, unless they've gotten their opportunity and failed.
Yeah, I mean, NXT, what it's really done, because I used to be really pessimistic when it would come to talents, but I think NXT has really turned me over, if not completely, very close to being an optimist when it comes to talent. I mean, big time. And I'm talking like developmental talent, not the more developed guys. Because, I just feel like they keep working at it.
Yeah, the only real, lost cause that I can think of is Rosa Mendez.
Right.
I mean, she's been around for how many years now, and she's never shown a hint that she could be good at anything wrestling at all.
Right, and it's funny because she's been very vocal lately about wanting to get better, wanting to get out there, wanting to be more active, which is great. And honestly, while we're on the subject of NXT, maybe bring her down there for a little bit.
Can we just take a minute to establish that she was at OVW at the same time as girls like Maurice and Beth Phoenix and frickin' Serena Deeb?
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, maybe not. But, yeah, NXT, I just love how when they know something is not working with a talent, they go back to the drawing board and they keep plugging away until something sticks. Maybe they'll do that with Bliss. Maybe they like the trajectory she's on. But I'm still intrigued about what she can bring. Because our women's division, I don't know, it's getting more and more of an interesting and unique identity to me with who comes up from NXT and what they're doing on the main roster with Paige and AJ, and soon now the Bellas will be in the mix. So it's an interesting time, indeed, for these women.
Absolutely. After the match, we had a Bayley promo. She come out and talks about how she's already beaten Charlotte's former BFF, Sasha Banks, and that Charlotte needs to start taking her seriously because at TakeOver, she's seriously taking the title.
The crowd support for Bayley, I think, is at an all-time high. I mean, she came out and the crowd was chanting, "Bayley's gonna hug you," and doing that whole thing. And what I loved about this is that the offense, because there was a bit of an altercation here, but they did it in a way that I think drove home the main theme of the talking points the last several weeks.
Yeah, Charlotte underestimates her, and she ends up coming out on top.
Exactly. Charlotte underestimates Bayley, and she gets caught. And that's exactly what happened here, because I think she tried to put a hurting on Bayley, but Bayley intercepts her with the Bayley to belly. And, Charlotte just rolls out of the ring. She's looking stunned, like, I can't believe I got caught like that. And then Bayley holds the NXT Women's Championship up high. And I always love when babyfaces do that. I don't know. For me, it's always been goosebump inducing when it's like, could we be looking at the next champion? And I'm very interested to see the kind of product these two women can put on, because let's remember, at TakeOver, it was Charlotte versus Natalya for the vacated NXT Women's Championship, and everybody and their mothers raved about that match, and for good reason. Let's see if these guys can create their own masterpiece and continue to do the women of NXT as a whole very proud.
Yeah. I mean, I love that the WWE is really putting emphasis on every title being defended at this, because it's like a mirror of Night of Champions.
Right. Yeah, that's very true, Ashton. That's a great point.
It's so cool because, like, when you think about, like, Arrival, it was, like, almost supposed to be, like, that WrestleMania, because you had, like, the big Bo Dallas finally losing the NXT Championship to Adrian Neville. It was the first ever live event on the network. They made this huge stink about it, and it was awesome. And then TakeOver only had 5 matches on it, and it really felt almost like it would get lost in the shuffle. But then you had 3 straight up match of the year contenders, including a legend status Divas match. And now I feel like TakeOver 2, the real story here is every title is being defended. And I think there is a legitimate chance that every title can change hands.
Oh, absolutely.
This could be the show where we see a shift in the paradigm of NXT.
Definitely, because I'll put it to you like this right now. I definitely see the NXT Women's Championship changing hands. The tag titles, given who's vying after them, which we'll get to that later, I can also certainly see them changing hands. The only one that's tough to call is the world title, and that's only because Adrian freaking Neville is the champion.
And the deep irony here is I am the exact opposite. I am like 99% sure that the NXT World Heavyweight Championship is changing hands. Not as sure on Charlotte Bayley. Not as sure on that, because Charlotte's only had the title for 3 or 4 months now. She's not necessarily a long-reigning champion, and it's like her time. It's time for her to finally lose the title or anything like that. I think she's only defended it 2 or 3 times. And then the Ascension, I think that is, I'm like 75% on that. But like you seem more 100% on that, and I seem like I'm not 100% sure, but I think that it would make sense if they would change hands. But on that same note, you have to wonder, like, how much longer is the WWE willing to stall before they bring the Ascension up?
And that's just, it's so funny, Ashton, that you say that, because I'm clamoring for them to bring the Ascension up, and yet if everything I've read these past few months is correct, they're going to hotshot Charlotte to the main roster, maybe even pair her up with her father, Ric Flair, to be like kind of a manager or whatever, to give him something to do, and there you go. And I have nothing against Charlotte, but it's like, priorities. I feel like she could use a little bit more time down here, and yet I am just begging the Ascension to come up, because I'm telling you, I think a program between them and the Usos for the WWE Tag Team titles could be wildly successful. Everybody knew my prediction. I thought that the Ascension could potentially win those tag titles at Night of Champions if we got some kind of tag team turmoil matchup. Didn't happen, because Usos are in a singular program with Gold Star, who have turned heel. But I'm still convinced that the Ascension, they're going to debut, and they're immediately going to be thrust into something with the Usos. But the only question that remains is when. Because I'm dying for it to happen, and I know you are too, and I think so many others are. I just hope we get there soon.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting development. I think that we're just going to have to. I don't know. I think that the Ascension are one of the more intriguing storylines right now, because how ready does the WWE see them as being? I think that most wrestling fans who know about them want them on the main roster, but does the WWE brass feel the same way?
It's interesting because you have to wonder, with the Usos, they've been on top for so long now, and in fact, you and I were recently discussing, and I think the Usos 7 months, and I think they've defended the titles enough, and they've been dominant enough for it to seriously be a talking point that the tag team titles are one of the more prestigious championships, in the WWE. And if WWE has designs to make the Ascension like a top heel tag team, I think they could succeed in that endeavor. But at the same time, I think it could be another one of those endeavors where WWE writes these guys as heels, but the crowd deems them baby faces. And that'll be even more interesting. So I'm curious what they're thinking right now, because I'm telling you, I've just had it in my gut for a while that these guys are going to step up. They're going to maybe even squash the Usos with how dominant they are. If they would give them a match against the Usos like they do in their NXT with the unknown competitors, I mean, good God, what a way to debut. But it's only a matter of time now. I mean, NXT announcers have been hyping up how long the Ascension have been NXT Tag Team Champions. Their time as King of the Mountains is going to come to an end. And then, what do you do after that?
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's go ahead. We'll just leave that discussion off on that note. Let's move on. We had a Tyler Breeze interview, and because I know John absolutely loved this, I'm just going to let it alone and let him talk about it.
I'm sorry, guys. I love the Breeze promo style where he seems so indignant about any and all questioning. Like, oh,
how dare you even ask that question?
I know, right? It's like, how dare you? Why should I win at NXT Takeover? Well, let's see. Sami Zayn showed that he couldn't measure up last time at Takeover because I beat him. And all the other competitors in general, they're not Prince Pretty. They're not the definition of delish. They're not the king of cute. Billy has more nicknames than John Morrison at this point.
He does.
It's just great, man. To me, what's so great about Tyler Breeze and when he cuts promos, he has a certain credibility to him because he also says, when I get in the ring, I take care of business, which is true. He wouldn't be one of the number one contenders if that wasn't as Tyson Kidd likes to say, fact. But there's just this comedic air to like what he says and how he says it. He walks that line between being a total goof and being credible. I just think with such flawless effort, it's fantastic. I'm telling you, Tyler Breeze, I don't think he's just my favorite developmental talent as far as NXT. I think he's one of my favorite performers, just period. Just so good.
And that's how I feel about Sami Zayn.
Right.
How great is that we both have a guy on NXT that we feel like that for?
Dude, live reactions is going to be so fascinating because when we get to that main event, I know you're going to be so pro Zayn, and I'm going to be so pro Breeze. It's going to be good.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome.
Tyler Breeze, all the confidence in the world that he can win the NXT Heavyweight Championship. And man, I hope he's right because that belt will never look more gorgeous than when it's around the waist of Tyler Breeze.
After the Breeze interview, we went into an interview with Sin Cara and Kalisto, but between those, I do want to point out to everybody, we had an ad for TakeOver 2 where they really emphasized all three titles being defended, plus they actually advertised the debut of Kenta. And also worth pointing out is he was wearing ring gear, so there's a chance we might actually get our debut Kenta match at TakeOver 2.
For now, I'm swallowing my super ultra mega squee. And I'm going to say that if it is just simply a promo, it'll be great for Kenta to get that kind of exposure.
From what I understand, Ric Flair is going to also be there with him.
Oh, man. See, that I love the hype and the atmosphere that WWE is building around Kenta. Like, they do the signing in Japan with Hulk Hogan, and I think Triple H was also there. You're going to have Ric Flair accompanying him in, like, TakeOver. They're making him seem like this huge deal, which he is, if you look at his credentials in Japan and who he's inspired. But I'm just glad WWE is giving him that kind of attention. I just hope it has some kind of long-term focus and payoff, because I don't want him forgotten and pushed to the wayside. I want to see Kenta go as far as WWE wants him to go, and hopefully that's pretty far. So, great point on that. And then, yeah, as you said, Sin Cara and Kalisto promo. And pretty much saying that, they're all business tonight. They're focused. They know if they get through the vaudevillains, They get to face the Ascension. You know, they acknowledge that the Ascension is dominant. It's not going to be an easy task, but they just feel like it's their time to be champions, to win the NXT Tag Team Gold, and they seem pretty ready for TakeOver.
Yeah, they do. I love that somehow or another Sin Cara manages to cut Spanish promos without coming off as a heel.
Right, though, it's so great, like, how they bounce back and forth between Sin Cara talking the Spanish and Kalisto doing the English, and at the end, though, Sin Cara finishes his part in English, and it just kind of leaves both Devin and Kalisto kind of baffled, like, what just happened.
Yeah.
Really like the dynamic between these two.
Yeah, it was pretty good. So up next, by the way, I have in my notes here, and I quote, Kalisto is Rey 2.0. He even kind of sounds like him. It's crazy.
You know what? I'm so glad you said that, Ashton, because I didn't want to be the only one, because I hear him speak, and I'm like, oh my god, he has that little bit of Rey Mysterio to him, and yeah, he is going to be wildly successful. And him and Sin Cara as an act on the main roster, holy crap, would they set the world on fire. A lot of potential here, dude. A lot of potential.
Absolutely. All right, so now we can move on. Ty Dillinger versus Tyler Breeze. And again, in my notes here, I have Ty versus Tyler, baby.
Yeah, now we get to this match. I jumped the gun a little bit earlier. I apologize for that, folks. But
and by the way, I do want to throw this out there. I really like Ty Dillinger's theme music. I don't know if it's the same theme that they used when it was him and Jason Jordan in a tag team, but regardless of whether it is or not, I dig it.
I dig it as well. What I loved about this match, in fact, to the point where I'd say that this was my match of the night, for me personally, two things. One, it showed that Tyler Breeze is a selling and bombing machine. Again, to go back to Ashton's sentiments way back when, he is the Dolph Ziggler of NXT.
Yep.
You know, how he just bumped for Dillinger and took certain spots like that inverted atomic drop, and even saw the knife edge chop pretty well that Dillinger got. Fantastic. And then the second thing I really loved about this, Breeze shows that at any moment in a match, he can snatch the victory away from you, which is probably one of the most lethal qualities you can possess heading into a match such as a Fatal 4-Way. Because at one point, Ty Dillinger's coming off the ropes. He's probably anticipating executing some kind of offense. And Breeze just out of nowhere gets the beauty shot.
Yep.
And I thought that was a brilliant finish because it establishes just like that. You think you can have all the control, all the momentum, be in the driver's seat. Breeze comes up from behind. He takes it from you. That's the danger of a competitor in a match like a Fatal 4-Way, because if that happens, you're looking at the next NXT champion. Now, what was interesting was it took Tyler Breeze like an extra second or two to get the pinfall cover, to the point where I thought, oh my god, is Tyler Breeze, like, did he get a submission finisher or something? Is he going to try and hook in something and really finish him off? But he did pin Dillinger. And yeah, Tyler Breeze just heading to TakeOver with a lot of momentum on his side.
Dude, I didn't even write anything about Tyler Breeze, other than the fact that his seasonal residence is now in Greece, because I love that they keep on updating that as the season changes. But
Absolutely.
I have a note here that Ty Dillinger is freaking awesome. I absolutely loved this dude in this match. And I even remember back to when he had his first squash match against Mojo Rawley. I kept on talking about how the most impressive thing in this match was Ty Dillinger and his heel tactics. Dude, this guy has some kind of something about him. I don't know if you want to call it an it factor or an X factor or charisma. I don't know what you want to call it, but at the end of the day, everything that he does the same old stuff as everyone else. He does a shoulder block and an inverted atomic drop, and like you said, he did the knife edge chop. It all felt unique. He made that stuff his own. There's just a quality about this guy that he's got a future. I'm just saying.
He does. That's the interesting thing about NXT, is that you can look at guys and maybe in some cases you see that they have a future, but they're just kind of getting squashed and doing whatever, and then they just turn around on a dime. Or then you have other cases like with Aiden English and myself, where you just think, oh, they're a jobber. They get treated as a jobber, but then when they get pushed, you get uncomfortable. But then they find something that makes it all turn around for you. And that's just another magnificent quality of NXT. So let's hope that Ty Dillinger can get on that list, because I agree. I think he has a great look. Looked great in there against Breeze. Definitely has an upside. We'll see how far he can take it as time progresses.
There's a little Randy Orton in there, dude.
Yeah, I can see what you're saying, man. I definitely sense that, and I'm just curious to see where he goes from here.
Yeah,
So.
definitely. I enjoyed the Jason Jordan Ty Dillinger experiment, but as much of an athletic specimen as Jason Jordan is, push Ty Dillinger now.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Look, you had two great young guys. If you're gonna push one over there, just push one of them. I think it'd be a shame for both talents to go to the wayside. And if the focus is Dillinger, you're not gonna hear a complaint out of me. So.
Okay, up next we had our promo of the night, in my opinion. Tyson Kidd had an interview, and he talks about one of the competitors in this match is super. I forget exactly what he said, but he said something about how one of them was a high flyer who learned how to be respectful and honorable in Japan. Another one of them is really known as being just like this cocky son of a gun who gets away with it because he's so good looking. And another guy, I don't even remember. He said about how he has more heart than anyone else, and he learned how to be ruthless in the dungeon. And then he's like, and then there's Neville Breezanzane.
Yeah, it was fantastic. I'm telling you, I've said it consistently. Tyson Kidd is probably one of my favorite heels going right now. I mean, he's certainly not in that top or any of that kind of status, but when we're talking about personal favorites, I just love what a smug douche Tyson Kidd is. Like, it just works. Even the way he smiles, like, he just oozes that pompousness and that arrogance. I'm almost convinced that maybe this is what he should have been doing on the main roster the entire time. Like, just this really cocky guy who's so technically savvy that he backs it up. And just, yeah, he's just bending people like pretzels. And to see him cut that kind of a promo was just fantastic because it shows, like, hey, he even has a little bit of a sense of humor about him. Fact. So, yeah, Tyson's really grown on me with this NXT run. I'm so grateful that they allowed him to come down there and really do his thing and give him something to do because we've been able to just enjoy all of this.
Yeah. When we do our TWitWoW awards for 2014, I think most improved for me is going to end up being Tyson Kidd.
And I wouldn't contend that. I think not only is he a worthwhile nominee, but yeah, he should be the guy to really take it all because we've been able to see Tyson Kidd develop a personality that's genuinely entertaining, while at the same time still being so damn good in that ring. Yeah, definitely one of the highlights of NXT when he's on it, without a doubt.
Yeah. Up next, we actually got to see an Instagram video from Enzo and Big Cass, where they go to the barbershop, or the salon, I guess it would be, and they get hair removal cream from Enzo's friend Carmella, and some guy walks in and he's talking about how he's going to get a wax, and then the whole time Cass is just filming himself in the mirror and basically doing the video version of what a selfie would be, I guess. And next thing you know, a little bit of a tussle breaks out, and they end up spilling the hair removal cream onto Carmella's puppy, Fifi, and they show Enzo just pulling chunks of hair off of this poor dog. That was awesome.
What I love about these guys, and I don't know if it's because my palate, metaphorically speaking, has changed, but I've said in the past, like, how gimmicks like Zack Ryder legitimately annoyed me. Like, I know to you guys it may seem like I really have fun at his expense. Don't get me wrong, I do. I'm not denying that. But I just never really cared for the gimmick because it just seemed so forced to me and that he was trying too hard, even if in a way he was being authentic. But with these guys, like, I never get that feeling. Maybe it's just because they're so entertaining, I never really bother to notice. But it just feels so much more effortless with these guys. Like, they're going in there, and he's like, oh, I think it was Enzo said to Big Cass, oh, we could get this hair removal cream for your mom. She looks like Sasquatch.
No. That's not how it was. He said that or Cass said that to Enzo about his mom and saying that for her back. And then Enzo looks back at Cass, and he's just like, please, man, your mom's got a mustache as thick as Ron Burgundy. And then Cass comes back with, come on, man, your mom looks like a Sasquatch. And then Enzo's just like, what's a Sasquatch? Stop talking! And it's just so good. I love these guys together.
I'm telling you, their relationship is something like you know that you really grow to love like a team like we did with the Shield or what have you when you don't want that team to ever dissolve. And I would put, for me personally, Enzo and Big Cass in that group, even though I think Colin Cassidy has such a bright future, as we've talked about at length in past episodes. These guys just have a chemistry that, like, every time they're on screen, I just can't help but get that warm feeling inside and this smile on my face because it's just such a good time. And they prove it again here, and they're just taking the clumps of hair out of poor Fifi. And Carmella's probably lost her job, so that's even worse. But at least Enzo knows that the hair removal cream is just effective enough for TakeOver 2 as he faces Sylvester Lafort in hair versus hair. I thought this was a great comedic build-up to that matchup. Great way to hype it.
Exactly. And I love that they kept it on topic, too, because actually, you know what? They didn't. Never mind. I can't give them credit for that. I'm jumping the gun. After this, we saw Tyson Kidd versus Adam Rose.
And you know what? I loved how in this match, one, we got to see Adam Rose, being Adam Rose. Yet something that I want to consistently give NXT credit for because it's not like the main roster's doing the same thing. But mainly the finish, just how lethal Tyson Kidd can be when he zones in on something with his technical prowess. Because the finish, Adam Rose tries going for the slice in the corner, but then Kidd gets a drop kick to the knee, and he really zones in on the leg, brings all of his weight down on it at one point, and then he's able to successfully get in the sharpshooter. Looks like Adam Rose is going to make it to the ropes. Kidd pulls him back. Adam Rose actually taps out, so now he's no longer even undefeated in singles competition. Now he's gotten a submission loss. Seems like Adam Rose is becoming more and more human as the weeks progress.
But he's still undefeated on the main roster in any context you want to talk about.
Exactly, which is insane. But yeah, really love that about Kidd. And even throughout the match, I loved how he was focusing on the head and neck of Adam Rose. And I guess in a way that would almost necessitate a nitpick because he did seem to focus on the head very aggressively. And then in the final moments, it's a leg-based thing. And this is just another one of those moments where I really wish he had kept the dungeon lock because that would have just been so perfect.
I think that they're saving the dungeon. I think that's like a pay-per-view only. That's like a Tombstone, man. They only pull that out when he really needs it. When all else fails, he pulls out the dungeon lock and sees if that can work.
Right. So, really loved how they made Kidd look here. Again, very lethal, very calculative. And, just like Breeze with his out-of-nowhere, his spontaneity with his offense, Kidd being that calculated and that cerebral, I think is also another dangerous quality. So they're showing what each guy really brings to the table in this Fatal 4-Way, and I love it. So,
absolutely. All right. Well, let's see. What happened next? Sami Zayn had an interview, and he's just such a humble guy. Everybody, if you don't love Sami Zayn, I don't think I like you, because the only way for somebody to not like Sami Zayn is if they don't like nice people. And if you don't like nice people, then you're probably not a nice person yourself. So I don't think I like you. Sami talks about how he doesn't have to pin the champion to win this match, but it'd be a nice little extra cherry on top if he could prove that he's better than Neville, because the best man in the ring is the champion. And I absolutely love this, because how many times have I said the guy with the championship is supposed to be the best, so it doesn't make sense for him to get pinned without losing the title. And here comes Sami Zayn being like, he's the best. I want to pin him. I love it.
I love it too. I think it's the perfect promo for a babyface like Zayn to deliver, because he knows the nature of the Fatal 4-Way, but he comes right out and says there's a certain way I want to win. I don't want my title reign, the start of it, to be marred by the questions of, oh, well, what if this or what if that? He doesn't want any ambiguity, and he knows he can avoid all that if he pins the champion. I just loved the theme of this promo, because he knows if you want to be the best, you got to beat the best guy in that ring. It's almost like, paraphrasing Ric Flair's to be the man, you got to beat the man. And Zayn is focused, man. Again, as much as I'm rooting for Tyler Breeze, I think you'd be foolish to not call Sami Zayn one of the favorites in this, because
I don't think it's fair to say that anyone is quote unquote one of the favorites. That seems like a cop-out to me. There is either a favorite or there are no favorites.
And see, that's where it gets difficult, because to me, I wouldn't even consider Tyson Kidd or Neville at this point in time to be one of the favorites. I'd say that it comes down to, ironically enough, the two guys that you and I are pulling for on one end or the other. You, Sami Zayn, me, Tyler Breeze. But that's mainly because it just seems like all the momentum, all the hype seems to be revolving around these two guys more than anybody else.
See, and I think it could go to anyone. I wouldn't be super duper surprised if Neville retained. I wouldn't be surprised if they gave the title to Kidd just because of how great he's been as a heel. And obviously, I mean, even you just said Zayn and Breeze seem like they've had a lot of focus on them leading up to this, but I don't think there is any one favorite. I think that all four guys have been built in a way that makes it so that if any of them win, it would be perfectly believable.
Well, I'll tell you something. Sami Zayn wants to achieve something unbelievable. And that's getting the win over Adrian Neville. So we'll see if he can do that next week. That's going to be interesting.
Yep. All right. Up next, we had a Vaudevillains interview. Lots and lots. It's so weird because I said we had 6 matches tonight. 6 matches in a 1-hour show. But then how many interviews did we have tonight, dude? We had the Bayley promo, Tyler Breeze interview, Carlista interview, Tyson Kidd interview, Sami Zayn interview, Vaudevillains interview, and Adrian. We had 7 interviews tonight.
Dude, you know what? Since we came to this segment, and to be honest, I even forgot that they had an interview segment because I was just flash forwarding to the main event, mentally speaking. I will say now, I've been thinking about this a lot lately. I think the Vaudevillains are my favorite tag team right now.
Wow.
It's so crazy because, you think with the Ascension here or Carlisto or even the Mechanics, which we haven't seen much the last few weeks, that, any one of those guys take the spot. But I just freaking love the Vaudevillains. I'm sorry. There's, this quality, first of all, the theme music, which I will unashamedly admit that I have listened to on repeat over and over, and it's just this 1920s piano, and where the hell are we? I think it's one of the most colorful gimmicks out there. It's a gimmick that I'm just consistently entertained by, and just how these two interact with each other, like they say in the promo. Tonight we assert that we are better than anybody else. Aiden English says that with his artistic caliber, he knows nobody's better than him. And Simon Gotch, the strongest strongman in the world. And then they go to Simon Gotch, and what does the man have to say for himself? Excelsior! It's amazing. I love it, man. I love it. I didn't know I would take to these guys as strongly as I would end up doing, but even their setup maneuver with Simon Gotch doing the steamroller and then Aiden English doing that senton, because holy crap, what a senton that is. They work, dude. And you know what? If Carlisto end up becoming the NXT Tag Team Champions at TakeOver 2, I want them and the Vaudevillains to enter really a legitimate program over those tag titles.
3 months at least.
Yeah, I actually was thinking, and I think I remember you saying you're not really the biggest fan of those types of things. I would want to see them enter some kind of a series, like best of 5 or something, or even best of 3.
No, let me just get that straight. I don't dislike those series. I dislike using those series as a way to be like, oh, we're gonna put on better matches than everyone else, because it just seems like a cheap ploy.
Right.
I can understand a 3 out of 5 series if it makes sense. If these two teams have proven consistently that they are neck and neck and that neither one of them is very clearly better than the other, then a 3 out of 5 series makes sense. But to me, I honestly think that a 2 out of 3 series or even a 2 out of 3 match would make more sense. And then if that goes to some kind of a tie, then that's when you break out the 3 out of 5 series. I think that that's something that you need to build towards, which is why I wasn't a huge fan of the Motor City Machine Guns Beer Money 3 out of 5 series when that happened a few years ago.
Right, and you know what the funny thing, to bring it back to the Vaudevillains, because I've said I'd go back, I'd watch clips, I'd listen to the theme. Some people have commented they feel like this gimmick has a lot of potential because it is that 1920s carnival feel and old time performances, and that you could add so much to this. Somebody made the suggestion of them getting a manager with that big top hat, maybe riding in on a unicycle or something, and normally
James Mitchell.
Yeah, something like that, dude. And you know what? Normally I would kind of roll my eyes and be like, okay, guys, that's a bit absurd. Don't you think you're getting a bit excessive? But you know something? if the Vaudevillains next week were to debut with somebody riding on a unicycle, even though motorcycle would be pretty sweet, and juggling like bowling pins or something, like, I'd be into it. I don't know. Like, I feel like with NXT, and I don't want to speak for you, but I've gotten this vibe the last few months of you when I watched the product together. I feel like I let my hair down, and I like gimmicks, and I've warmed up to gimmicks, and maybe it's kind of changed my perception on certain gimmicks that maybe before I would have been more of a cynic about. And a gimmick like this is certainly one, because I guarantee you, if before the Vaudevillains, if something like this had debuted, maybe I would have been like, oh, this is stupid, whatever, but they have shown that virtually anything can work, and this is no exception. So, yeah, I want my unicycle riding manager. That's what I want next, so let's get to it.
Ladies and gentlemen, I just want to take this opportunity to point out that if nothing else in life, this segment right here is proof that taste in wrestling and wrestlers is purely subjective. Because John absolutely loves the Vaudevillains. And
Yeah.
I think they're all right. And I'm not really a huge fan of either guy, and I think that the whole Excelsior thing was just trying too hard. But I'm not going to try and discount them, because obviously they're working for at least one person.
Right, and you know what? I think the crowd is into them too, but then again, NXT fans are amazing. They'll give it
Yeah, they get into everything.
Yeah.
They used to hate the Ascension, and then all of a sudden they discovered Ya, and now the Ascension's over again.
I don't know, man. I really, there was a
Oh
point
no,
where
like I said, dude, I totally
Right.
get it. I get it. I get why they have appeal to some people. I'm just not one of them.
Right. But you know what? That, I think, brings up such a great point too, Ashton, because, like, you say that they're all right, but, like, NXT has something for everybody, because for you,
Yeah.
NXT has Sami Zayn.
Well, and I love Carlisto too.
And Carlisto, as far as tag teams go. Like, NXT is a program, I think, more
And
than
I mean,
any other-
Enzo and Big Cass. I mean,
Oh, my. Yeah, I mean, you know what? That's another thing. Enzo and Big Cass are right behind the Vaudevillains. I'm talking like nipping at the heels number 2, because those guys are amazing. But it just goes to show.
Is there a tag team in WWE on the main roster more entertaining than any of those three teams? Vaudevillains, Carlisto, and Enzo and Cass?
I don't think so. I wish I could have said a while back Gold Star, but I don't think so anymore. I think in a way they kind of killed Gold Star. For me, I don't know. They're kind of in a weird place right now. I'm still thoroughly enjoying them in ring-wise, but as far as personalities, nobody comes close to those three teams for me. Nobody.
Which is so crazy. They get 1 hour every week, and they have more fleshed out personalities than anyone on Raw or SmackDown, and they have 5 hours.
Well, dude, like I was just getting ready to say, and I'm so glad you brought up the hour, just to really drive the stake home on this point. In 1 hour, 1 hour, they show consistently that they have more depth and diversity. This would be my personal NXT challenge, because we always talk about getting people who never watch NXT to watch NXT. My personal NXT challenge would be watch just one episode. One. And if you don't find a single personality that you feel on some level you could invest
Watch the next episode, because there'll probably be someone there that wasn't on the episode you watched first.
There'll probably be someone there. And that's the thing. That's the only reason why I may want to press people to watch more than one episode, only because of the talent, the roster rotations.
Yeah.
But NXT, I am convinced, and normally I'm hyperbolic about these kinds of things, but I don't think it's hyperbole to say that NXT is the one program that I think has something for everyone.
Yep.
And that's insane. Like,
I mean, think about it, dude. Like, if you like the John Cena, Hulk Hogan, say your prayers, eat your vitamins, never give up babyface, Adrian Neville exists. If you like the Daniel Bryan, CM Punk, someone that's always getting held back by the authority and that is really great in the ring and can cut pretty decent promos, Sami Zayn. If you like just the absolute badass killing machine, Ascension. If you like I just made myself sad. I was getting ready to be like, if you like the rebellious anti-authority, you have Corey Graves, but no, he's done.
If you like really colorful gimmicks that are just kind of, we have the vaudevillains. If you like gimmicks,
if you like luchadors, we have Sin Cara and Kalisto.
if you like male models that are actually credible, we have Tyler Breeze, a guy who debuted, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm gonna hate this bitch. And to go from that to thinking, oh my god, Tyler Breeze next NXT champion, like, what?
Yeah.
This show is amazing.
We even have foreigners.
We do. We have foreigners. It's
And speaking of which, up next was Sami Zayn versus Marcus Louis. Segway
man.
for the win.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, it was like mega combo breaker. Yeah. This match, honestly, I don't really remember much but the finish.
I do. Let me just point out, if I didn't love Full Sail before, I fell in love with them during this match because they're actually smart enough not to chant USA, USA when the foreigner's in the ring with a Canadian guy. They actually chanted Canada, Canada to say, like, yeah, we get that you're not the US, but you're better than this French douche.
Completely agree, dude. I love how that they were smart enough, to not make that mistake. Because that happens so often, and it always irritates me. I'm like, why would you chant that when either the other babyface is a foreigner or both guys are from the USA? Because we've seen both instances. So here, they found a way around it, and I thought that was clever. And this was the second match of the night where we see a submission finish, because Sami Zayn gets in the Koji clutch on Marcus Louis, and for the quick tap out. That's what I love about Sami Zayn in the Koji clutch. I've never really seen anybody last long in that maneuver. The tap outs are practically instantaneous.
Dude, what if freaking Neville taps out to that move? How huge would that be?
Oh, man. Well, that would put the biggest smile on Sami Zayn's face, and I'm sure yours as well. I mean, he wants to beat the champion, and I think a submission win like that, that's just putting the exclamation point on your dominance.
I feel like there isn't going to be a submission victory in this match. I think it's going to be like a Sami Zayn haluva kick or a beauty shot or something like that.
Yeah, I agree. But I gotta tell you, ever since I saw the Koji clutch, I remember the first time I saw it was an Iron Man match between AJ Styles and Christopher Daniels, and Daniels locked it in on Styles. It's one of my favorite submission holds, and I'm just so happy that Sami Zayn's using it, because it seems like such a great fit for him, too.
Punk whipped that out in his match with John Cena at Money in the Bank 2011, too.
Yeah, it's just such a great hold. I love it.
It's so visually appealing.
It is, and I think that's exactly, I mean, you hit it right on the head, dude. I think that's exactly where its strength comes from, is the visual. And the idea that Sami Zayn can hook it in like nothing just shows you what a threat he is. Much like Tyler Breeze, again, that just out of nowhere, quick as a hiccup kind of offense. And yeah, Sami Zayn, man, he's riding a huge wave of momentum into the NXT World Championship match. Can he finally seize the title? That's the question.
Absolutely. After the match, we did have a bit of shenanigans going on. We had Enzo Amore and Colin Cassidy attacking LaForte and Louis from behind and threatening to use the hair removal cream on them, but LaForte does manage to escape.
Yes, LaForte manages to get out of Dodge, but he's going to have nowhere to run next week. I thought it would have been funny if they at least got some of the chest hair removed, but you know what? Keep teasing it, because that just makes the payoff of when the heel finally is cornered all the sweeter. I have a feeling we're all going to be having a great laugh at LaForte's expense.
Absolutely. Up next was our final interview and Fatal 4-Way competitor match of the night. Adrian Neville talked about the Fatal 4-Way not having a champion's advantage, how he doesn't have to get pinned in order to lose the title. He does say that he does like taking risks, though. So he looks forward to the challenge of beating these three guys. Since he's already beaten them all individually, he wants to be able to prove that he can beat them all at once now.
Yeah, definitely a very confident champion in Adrian Neville. As you said, actually, he said he's looking forward to it. And like I said, I believe it was on the last review, I mean, Adrian Neville, he's got to be careful, because if he loses, he's really going to have nobody to blame but himself, because he asked for this match. Yep. He put it forward that he wanted to defend it against all three guys.
And I think that right there is the reason that I would not be super shocked if he retained.
Right. Because I think it makes a babyface look bad when they write checks with their mouth that their abilities can't cash. So, I wouldn't be surprised either if Neville pulled it out, though I do think his time is coming at an end, and I think they're doing it in a match that could be for the purpose of protecting his credibility. So we'll have to wait and see. But then, as you said, it was the last interview / matchup because Adrian Neville was taking on the environmentally conscious CJ Parker. Not really much to say about this match. I mean, Parker did get some offense. Like, he got that standing axe kick looking maneuver. Didn't really get much other notable offense outside of that. And ultimately, Adrian Neville does take to the skies, hits a red arrow, and gets the pin on Parker.
Absolutely. This kept Parker strong. I loved that he came out with a sign that said fossil and then fuels was crossed out and it said fools.
Oh, man. Yeah, every week, man. Or every week that he's on the program, at least, those signs, I think, are always good for a little chuckle. And it's like, oh, Parker, I'll never stop polluting the environment.
I've got some major heat with Renee Young right now, though.
Really?
Because she called Parker out. She said that she saw him putting regular gas into his car the other day. And then Byron Saxton was like, why would you say something so slanderous about CJ? And she goes, I'm not. I saw it with my own eyes.
If you strain your ears hard enough, you can actually hear the sound of my heart breaking. How could you, CJ?
I know, right?
But, yeah, he gets the loss here. I'm interested to see where CJ Parker will go with this, what his next feud will be, because I still remember his last outing with Xavier Woods. We were so impressed with both guys. I mean, CJ Parker is somebody that, honestly, at this point, they'd have to, of course, develop a logical route to get there, but I wouldn't be surprised to hear about him as a NXT Championship contender, even if it would just be like a mini feud like Adrian Neville had with Brodus Clay at one point,
right,
for the title. So I'll be interested to see where Parker goes from here, what direction they have for him. So,
well, he does hold a few victories over a main roster guy, doesn't he?
That is true.
Even though that main roster guy might not have any victories ever on the actual main roster.
And even he knows it.
Yeah. All right. Up next was our main event of the evening, the Vaudevillains versus Sin Cara and Kalisto.
What's so interesting about this, Ashton, and again, it goes back to our nitpick earlier, I feel like every match that Sin Cara and Kalisto have been a part of have been exhibition matches.
Can I just point something out real quick?
Sure.
Before we actually get into the match, who is the only team to actually defeat? And actually, now that I think about it, who have been the only two teams to actually defeat the Ascension in non-title matches?
I'm drawing a blank, Ash, and who were they?
Well, didn't Kalisto and El Local beat them in a non-title match to get that title shot at TakeOver 1?
I don't think they did. I thought they beat some other team, and then they laid the challenge down verbally, which the Ascension accepted.
Okay, well then I know for a fact that the one team that I know for a fact beat the Ascension in a non-title match was Hunico and Camacho.
Yes! Wow.
And now we're looking at Hunico as Sin Cara and Kalisto without El Local. So El Local and Camacho have been dropped, and we now have the best of the teams that have given the Ascension the biggest run for their money that they can afford.
And, can I just take a moment here? Because I promise everybody we will get to the actual match. Not that there's much to discuss. I mean, again, in my opinion, this is yet just another exhibition match for Sin Cara and Kalisto. But just how happy I am, again, and we've talked about this in the past, but just how elated I am for Hunico. Because,
I know, right?
I've seen lately, and I don't want to be like that guy, because I get it. I don't work in that environment. I don't know what goes on there. Maybe it was a real hellhole, but I've seen Ricardo Rodriguez on Twitter lately, run the place into the ground. Oh, they didn't give me a fair shake, this and that. And yet with Hunico, he was patient. He did his time, got his stuff together, and now he's here. Under the Sin Cara mask, a part of probably the most exciting tag team that WWE has produced. I'm sorry, Usos, but really the thing with Sin Cara and Kalisto in these exhibition matches, we've only gotten a taste. consecutively of like what they can do, I feel like with the Ascension, that's when we're really going to see the depth of their repertoire. And that just sends such feelings of excitement through me that I can't even begin. And Hunico deserves this.
Can
just
we
such
just
a great
establish that at one point in this match, Kalisto gets up on Hunico or Sin Cara's shoulders as if Sin Cara was going to deliver a powerbomb to him and did a freaking moonsault off of him?
It was amazing. Absolutely amazing. I'm telling you, these guys to me are such a throwback to the type of team that Edge and Rey Mysterio were in 2002, using each other as weapons if necessary. The aerial stylings are off the charts. These guys are fantastic. I'm telling you, they've got something. And the idea that a worker as crisp and just as perfect as Hunico, and probably the next luchador sensation in Kalisto, have just come together to have this kind of success. I mean, these are the moments that make me say, you know what? Pro wrestling is freaking awesome. These guys are wonderful.
Yeah, they're great. I love these guys so much. They are absolutely brilliant. And just, I know your favorite team is the Vaudevillains, but I think that as far as NXT goes, these guys are definitely mine.
And nobody could blame you. Like, have you seen them, guys? Like, they're just so exciting. And I think
that it really does have to do a lot with the fact that Sin Cara, a.k.a. Hunico, is finally getting an opportunity to shine in a major spot, even if it's not on the main roster.
Dude, this is such a perfect place for him. It really is. Because, look,
he needs to stay with Kalisto. Like, Kalisto is his personal, like, check casher, man. Like, he needs to just stick with Kalisto for as long as the WWE lets him, because those two guys together are the perfect team, because you have the young up-and-comer who does things that just drop your jaw, that people wonder, how is that physically possible? And then you have the veteran who, and it's almost kind of like the whole thing that where Sin Cara first showed up, and it was Sin Cara and Chavo Guerrero where they were feuding with each other, and Chavo kept on saying, yeah, I taught him that, and all that stuff. That's kind of what this feels like, but rather than feuding, they're a team.
Right. And what I love about these guys, and they possess this, and see, that's what's going to make this match so fascinating, because like the Ascension, these guys know how to control a ring. These guys know how to neutralize all threats, because Kalisto nails his finisher to Simon Gotch, and after he tags in Sin Cara, aka Hunico, he does like a rollout, like a senton looking maneuver, like through the ropes, onto Aiden English, and then Sin Cara flies quite a distance, because Simon Gotch is a little further away.
He could have done a coast-to-coast with the amount of air that he got.
Yeah, and he connects with the senton. These guys are freaking brilliant. And to Ashton's point earlier,
just to really drive the point home, to be more realistic rather than just saying he could have done this or that, he traveled, I would say, 2/3 of the way across the ring, flipping to do a senton onto, I want to say Aiden English.
It was Simon Gotch.
It was Gotch. Okay. Yeah, that's right. Because English is the one who got his head squashed by Kalisto on the outside. That would look bad.
Yeah, it did. But these guys, man, are on fire. And Hunico has never held a championship. He's been given the Sin Cara gimmick, which, what a gift for all the patience and just waiting your time, you know, and just doing whatever. Because he's a part of an act that I think has a very legitimate chance of becoming the next NXT Tag Team Champions, off of a team that commentary has said has dominated the division, has reduced it to just everything but a graveyard with the number of challengers that feel confident enough to step forward. These guys are just, oh my god, I think they're going to do it. And it's such an interesting dichotomy, because you have Sin Cara and Kalisto that are high flying, you know, aerial stylings, and the Ascension that are just vicious. I mean, will beat you up, beat you down until there is nothing left. and they're on a collision course. I mean, after the match, they were celebrating. Ascension's music hits. They have a stare down. Sin Cara and Kalisto in the ring. The Ascension on the stage. It's all about those tag team titles, brother.
Absolutely. It really is all about the tag titles. And I just love the way that they've built to this. I feel like this isn't, I wish that I could say this and have it be more impactful as if we've never said it before or it's never been true before, but NXT is blowing the main roster out of the building with their booking of the main titles on their roster. Like, the build up to all 3 championship matches is better than any one championship match that has been built to in WWE for Night of Champions.
And can I just say this real quick? Because, again, I'm just so happy you've said that, because you've just so many times tonight have fed me lines for things that I want to say. I love how NXT, because they recognized how long this tournament is going on and everything, they give the tag team championship the main event spot. And I found that to be such a great nod of respect, because you think on the go-home show, you'd want to give that to the world title. You'd want to give that to the 4 guys, but they already got so much time that they practically were the main event as far as time and devotion was concerned. But the closing segment, the last thing we'll remember, were the 2 tag teams facing off, which gives the tag team championship a feel of legitimate importance. You know, like, don't shove us to the wayside. I love that NXT thinks that way. Absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. Just so good.
All right, man. I guess with that said, unless you have anything else you want to say about the main event, we can get right into our next segment.
Go.
High spots and low shots. And my low shot, despite all the praise I've given them tonight, despite the admissions I've made about them tonight, I have to give it to the Vaudevillains. I mean, you're in the NXT Tag Team Championship Finals. You're right there. 1 match away from facing the champions, and they couldn't get it done. As credible as they were a few weeks prior when they squashed Enzo Amore and Big Cass, I think they were just the latest victims. And again, another exhibition-style type matchup as far as Sin Cara and Kalisto are concerned. I have no doubt that these guys, depending on how long they stay together down in NXT, could be future NXT Tag Team Champions, but today was not that day, so they are my low shot.
Yeah. I think my low shot is going to be the Legionnaire, because not only did Marcus Louis lose, but Enzo and Big Cass have that hair removal cream that they're prepared to use, and they got a hold of Marcus Louis, or not, of Sylvester Lafore. And even though Sylvester did get away, it's just an ominous cloud looming over their heads how long the hair on their heads is really going to last.
Yeah, great point. I agree with your assessment, absolutely. So with that said, my high spot, you know what? I think my high spot is going to be, how apropos, Tyler Breeze. You know, I mean, no doubt Ty Dillinger took it to him, but Tyler Breeze showed out of nowhere he can get a win just like that he is not to be ignored, that he is not to be underestimated, and that he's coming to do what maybe he feels like in his right mind he should have done a few weeks ago, and that's become the NXT champion. And he just had a great outing, so yeah.
My high spot is Tyson Kidd, because to me, he had the best interview of the night, and he made Adam freaking Rose tap out, handing him his first singles loss as Adam Rose ever.
Yeah, this really showed, and I was so happy they did this, like the final few moments, this showed how dangerous Tyson Kidd can be when he's given an opening. It really makes that dungeon training, which of course you just think carries a credibility in its own right because it is the dungeon and the hard family and all that stuff, but it shows like when it comes into play and just how dangerous it is. Tyson Kidd, I think this is the best he's ever been. Us getting to be exposed to him at this level has been just so wonderful. I've thoroughly enjoyed him, and it was a great night for him, so I completely agree with you.
Absolutely, dude.
All right, with that said, do you have any closing remarks about NXT?
Well, I don't technically have any closing remarks about NXT, but we are going to cut here because we are going to do preview and predictions for TakeOver 2.
All right, then.
So I'll tell you what. Why don't you do your little TWitWoW wrap up, and then we'll get right into that.
All right, guys. This has been NXT. This has been TWitWoW, the best wrestling podcast made for wrestling fans by wrestling fans on the web today. I'm John. That's my cohort and commentary Ashton. Guys, be sure to comment and subscribe on YouTube. Discuss on Tweetoff, and we will see you again for our Monday Night Raw review where, and I'm not kidding, Jerry Springer is expected to try and create reconciliation between the Bella twins. What can possibly go wrong? We'll see you there.